welcome to Sports with Em. I'm Em, your host today, and today we are joined by a special guest. Please introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Jayden Hamilton. I'm 17 years old and I go to Peninsula Manawisa. I'm starting year 12 this year, as well as last year I was doing Formula 4 in Australian Formula Open. And this year in 2025, I'm doing Formula Regional, which is the equivalent of Formula 3.
Ooh, all the way out to Formula 3. That's very exciting.
Very exciting. Yeah, it's going to be very, very big year ahead.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Balancing that with year 12 must be hard doing motorsport and obviously year 12 as well.
Oh yeah, it's going to be, yeah, it was already hard enough last year with year 11. So with year 12, I'm going to have to try and take school a little bit more higher up on the priority list, I reckon.
Yeah, it's always a hard balance to do that. Like, be like, I love it, but I need to actually pass school to continue.
Yeah, exactly. It's like when you're really into AFL and you try and spend all your time doing AFL, but then you sort of let your other classes drop. If you
Yeah,
try and figure out the same type of balance, that's what sort of is for motorsport, except I reckon motorsport's a little bit more demanding than what AFL would be, to be a little bit honest.
I mean, it takes up most of your weekends as well. So I guess you don't
Mm.
have that time. Like, you have to go to teachers. I actually can't do it this weekend. I
Yeah,
guess, yeah,
exactly. Like it's not you just go and rock up on the Saturday or the Sunday and you play one game and you go to one training session on Thursday after school. It's like you have to go and practice on the simulator for hours at a time. And then you have to like fly up to wherever you're going on the Thursday, practice on the Friday, and then drive the entire weekend. Like it
yeah.
takes up a good portion of the week just from having to actually get there, first of all.
Must be pretty exhausting doing that. Do you ever get very tired, like doing that, obviously?
Well, I mean, it's mainly just been around Australia, besides when I went to France and India, which when we did go to France and India, we went up the week before, so it wasn't too tiring. But when it has been, I fly up, we get in late, and then I have to drive early the next day, like for example, Queensland, then it does get a little bit tiring, yeah.
Yeah. Are you doing lots of traveling this year? Because now going into Formula 3.
Well, this year's mainly still Australia. We've got one race in New Zealand, so we've got six races in Australia and one race in New Zealand at the end of the year. So that's going to be the only overseas traveling that I've got in the calendar at the moment. We're going to try and keep it mainly based nationally, though, just
Yeah.
because of year 12.
No, yeah, that makes sense. Obviously, with year 12 exams coming up as well, you want to be
Yeah.
able to be in
Yeah,
the country
don't
to
want to
do
be in
those.
France when I've got bloody exams to go
Oh,
through, like 2 weeks to go through exams, and I'm sitting in a villa in France
yeah.
about to race the next day.
Doing have math exam the next day, then like, oh no. Um,
I should be focusing on driving right now.
yeah. For people who are listening in, where are you racing in Australia for our local Aussies?
So for the first three rounds, it's going to be in Victoria. So we're going to have Phillip Island, Sandown, and Winton.
Mhm.
And we're also going to be racing at the Bend. And then, um, yeah, so here we go. So we've got the calendar up now. So we've got the first race at Phillip Island,
Yep.
and then the second race is at One Raceway in New South Wales.
Mhm.
And then we have Sandown, Winton, the Bend, and then we've got New Zealand in November.
Beautiful. Well, maybe some people can come along and watch you. Have a cheer squad.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have my family at the Victorian rounds, and then
Yeah.
we're gonna get. I do coaching at Le Mans for go-karters,
Oh yeah.
so at the Victorian rounds, like maybe Sandown, we're gonna try and get the kids down again. We had them down for Phillip Island. We had, I think it was six kids we had come down, so
That's
we've got
so
to we'll
nice.
try and get some more next time. But for the first time, it wasn't too bad getting six kids down.
I might have to come down and film some content, get some
Yeah,
videos.
don't
Are
be
you
too
gonna
far.
be are you gonna be going to the Australian Grand Prix?
Oh yeah, I'll be going to the Australian Grand Prix 100%. We've got a little bit of stuff to do there promotion wise for
Yeah.
regional. So I'll be down at the track for I think from Thursday to Sunday. I'll be down there. So I've got a little bit more stuff to do than watching the races though. So it's not purely just to watch races. I've actually got to go and do a few things for promoting regional. And like talking about the pathway of starting from go-karts going up into race cars.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to help kids get through all of that.
And I think that's really good if you start lots of kids young. Are you finding that you're getting a few more girls now or still mainly boys?
We are actually getting a lot of girls now with Le Mans. We've got essentially, I think it's 1 to 3 girls per class, and there's only, I think, maybe 1 or 2 classes that don't have any girls at all. So it is good to
That's,
see that we are getting more girls through the program. And then when
yeah,
it comes to actual racing cars, I've raced against only one girl in race cars, but I know a few girl race car drivers that I've been connected through over the last few years.
that's so good. It's good to hear that it's becoming both genders now, which is really lovely. Because I
Yeah,
mean,
it is really good. Yeah, trying to
motorsport's for everyone at the end of the day.
yeah, it's not exclusively just for boys. Yeah, it's not exclusively for boys at the end of the day. It is good to see girls getting involved. Oh yeah, when I actually completely forgot about India. When we went to India, we actually had 3 or 4 girls racing with us as well.
Really?
Yeah, that was, and also in France too. France, we had a few girls, and then India, we had a few girls as well. I was mainly thinking about Australia, and I forgot about overseas racing for a second.
Yeah. When you're in other countries, do you find it quite hard to communicate sometimes, or still pretty easy?
As in, like, communicate with the locals.
Yeah, like locals down there.
We only been to France and India for racing, so most of
Yeah.
them speak pretty fluent English.
Yeah, that's
India
good.
was
At
a
least
little,
you're not. Yeah.
yeah, India was a little bit worse than France.
Yeah.
France, pretty much everyone spoke English or at least broken English.
Yeah.
But then in India, it was a few spoke fluent, mainly around the track. But where we were staying, it was mainly broken.
Yeah, that's good.
So it was, yeah, a little bit of a language barrier, but it was all right. We got through it in the end.
Yeah. Just got to keep pushing. All right. So, racing is quite a highly competitive competition. How do you keep your mental state good on race days?
So it is all about the preparation up to race days.
Yeah.
So one of my older coaches and one of my mentors now, Nick Floodstrom. So he's studied all the mental side of things, and he's helped guide me through like trying to keep my head clear and trying to stay in the zone and like getting out of negative thoughts and everything. And he's introduced me into a sport psychiatrist.
Yep.
So we've had a few different talks all about the mental side of things and how to mitigate the bad thoughts and how to stay calm and keep my head cool. Because as soon as you start overthinking, that's when you start making mistakes. So that's having that preparation is really good. And I do thank Nick a lot for the preparation he has taken me through.
That's really good. I'm glad you got a good mentor for that. People don't realize that how much sport can actually drain you mentally. And I think it's really important that we get that message out there that not sport just physically challenging, but also mentally can be quite challenging.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is very mentally demanding, especially when it does come to race weekends as well. When you've got a lot happening all around you, like you have to go and have a media interview afterwards, or you have to go and I don't know, you have to go and talk to people that are around your car and everything. It does sort of drain your social battery. And when your social battery does get drained, you don't realize it, but it does actually influence how you drive as well. Because
Yeah.
then that way you start to sort of I don't know, you just start to sort of feel a little bit burnt out by the time you actually come to driving.
Yeah. And I think it's really, yeah, people don't realize how important you have to be mentally to actually be able to do the physical stuff that you do, like driving or rowing or any sport in particular, how mentally draining that can actually be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot more to it than just physical. Yeah.
Can you tell us about your journey into motorsport and how you got there, like from
So I
very
started
beginning?
off in well, the very beginning was in 2019 where
Yep,
I started driving in the Le Mans. So that's the same group that I'm actually coaching now. So I've gone through their program and then come back a few years later and started coaching them.
that's
So
so awesome.
so I drove with them for I think 3 or 4 years.
Yep,
And then by the end of 2022, I got my own go-kart. So we left the LDA program and then started doing my own racing through the end of 2022 and 2023. And then by the end of 2023, I started doing testing in a Formula 4 car with Tim. So then I then raced with Tim in that car for all of 2024.
yep,
And then coming into 2025, I'm still racing with Tim, but instead of a Formula 4, now I'm in a Formula Regional.
that's very cool. Come a long way from karting. That actually happened pretty fast because that was only in 2022. So
Yeah,
2025 now, but that wasn't that long ago. It was 2024. So
it's a reasonably short journey for race car drivers because normally they all start at like the really young age of 6 and 7, whereas I started at 12. So
yeah,
to start a lot later and get into cars at around the same time that everyone else is getting into cars and still being competitive as well is really, it's really surprising. It's really
yeah,
surprising. I don't normally see it that much in motorsport.
yeah. And I think like you were only 12, so that's actually pretty impressive. Like I've talked to people who were only 5 when they started and 6. So you've
Exactly.
obviously you've come a long way.
Yeah, they've grown around it their entire lives, and that's the only thing that they ever think about. And like by the time they've doubled their age, being 5, they've gone to 10 years old and doubled their age. I haven't even started yet. That's in comparison to how long they've been driving before I was.
Yeah. So obviously you've done quite a lot of races now. What's been your most memorable race?
Probably the Bully Zero round we had at Sydney. So that was probably the most influential round I've ever had
Yep.
because we had so many people getting involved with the campaign. We had half of the signatures on the front were fully covered, so you can see the orange panel in the back
Yeah.
that was fully covered by the end of the weekend, but it only started off halfway from having the car in MKC and then having like friends and family sign it.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the weekend, we had so many people coming up, signing the car, asking questions about what we were doing, and then donating gold coins. It was really nice to see. And we got a lot of traction from it. Bully Zero got a lot of traction from it. It was the first time I drove that new car as well. So it was a very big weekend.
That would have been very exciting. So you work a lot with Bully Zero? Are you an ambassador for them or
Yeah, I'm an ambassador for Bully Zero. So I'm going to be doing a bit more this year than we did last year because last year we only sort of we only got involved with them towards the end of the year.
yeah.
So this year we're going to try and look at doing a lot more with them, starting to go to some of their events and then starting to be more of a public figure for them as well.
Yeah, that's really lovely. Are you is there a reason why you wanted to join Bully Zero?
Well, it's just the amount that you see in motorsports. So, especially in go-karting as well, there's a lot of bullying in between, like not just from driver to driver, but also from like parents to drivers as well. In
Yeah.
go-karting, you see more parent to drivers than you do drivers to drivers. Like we've had stories of a young girl at Todd Road who's been called racial slurs by parents and drivers alike. And we've had all the way up into a 40-year-old man who's gone from sim racing into race car driving, being bullied by go-karters because he didn't do go-karting. He went straight from a simulator into a race car. So it just goes to show that anyone can be affected, even
Yeah.
6 girls all the way up to 40-year-old men, which it isn't acceptable because even media get bullied. Like we've had a few stories of media getting bullied by staff and drivers because they find that they're invading their space, but it's their job. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's not acceptable. There shouldn't be any of that in motorsport. We're a community. We should all be one. We shouldn't be picking on people. We shouldn't be going and outing people, making them feel isolated. We need to try and get everyone together as a community because that's what motorsport's about.
Exactly. And I think slowly it should hopefully get to that, but it's always hard because of how much bullying does happen. Like even in a schoolyard, people don't realize how much actually does happen. And it's particularly in sport because it gets so competitive, people are always targeting athletes.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of envy and a lot of hate going around in sport, like not just in motorsport, like you would find it in AFL and soccer as well. You'd find people doing better than others, and then they would go and start, they'll go and start bullying, they'll go and start making fun of them. They'll go and start picking on them because they're doing better than what they are. Like you wouldn't
Yeah.
find someone better than you, or you wouldn't find a hater doing better than you. Like all the haters are always doing either worse than you or they just envy you.
Yeah. And like even like you go on TikTok and stuff and Instagram and Facebook and all that, like you see people just bringing down other drivers. Like I'm in lots of motorsport media. You see even the media just pulling down drivers and people in the comments saying that. It must be a pretty heavy toll on the drivers who have to read that comment and then be have to respond to that. It
Yeah,
must be pretty hard.
100%. Yeah, just at the end of the day, it's all just trolls that are sitting in their basement that just live off like insulting people. that's all they have in life is just insulting people. And it's a terrible part of motorsport and a terrible part of the world, bullying. Like we got to try and mitigate it as much as possible.
Yeah, like if I can in the future with my podcast, I'd love to be on board with that because I think bullying has so many negative impacts. Like, yeah, you see what it does to people and it's terrible.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
that's why Bully Zero is good as well, because they don't just look at like helping the victims. They also look at trying to help the actual bullies themselves realize what they're doing and show them the effects that they are giving the victims. Like it's a bit daft to bring in, I know, but like you've had like bullying is one of the main reasons that people commit suicide. So
yeah,
being able to show those statistics to the bullies and showing them what they're actually doing to people, it's really good to get them to actually visually see how bad what they're doing, like what they're doing is terrible for the people around them and terrible for themselves as well.
yeah. If there's people who are listening right now that want to support, is there anything that they can do to help Bully Zero?
So the page at the moment is down, or my page currently at the moment is down with Bully Zero, but you can go to bullyzero.org, is it? .org, yep. So you can go to bullyzero.org and then you'll be able to find a bunch of content that you can go through. So you
Yep.
can go through content if you are being bullied or if you feel like you are being a bully. So then you can try and see how you can stop that or how you can take action against it. They've got plenty of resources on there. They're really kind people. If you need to, you can shoot them an email and get support as well. They've got plenty of things to do. You can go and donate on their page too. So if you want to help the cause, go to bullyzero.org.
Beautiful. I'll make sure to put that in our caption as well for people who want to support because I think that's a really big cause. And happening, even athletes, like small athletes, I think it's really important that we all get on board and support this cause.
Oh, yeah. And if you want to, you can feel free to message me as well. I'll be happy to support you. I've had to support kids in the past that have approached me about bullying, and yeah, it's like some of the things that they've said isn't on. So if you are being affected by bullying, you can message me on Instagram, TikTok, any of my social media services. You can go and message me as well.
Yeah, I think it's really important for kids to have a role model like you, like just have someone to look up to. I think it's really important because you're making a big difference in motorsport. So I think that's really important.
Yeah,
Um, what? Sorry,
that's
could
all
not get
good.
the grammar right then. What are some of the most important lessons that you've learned in motorsport and Formula 4 that you use in your life now?
Well, I touched base on it earlier. It's mainly just not overthinking. Like
Yeah.
that's what Tim's tried to drill into me the entire year. So Tim's my coach and the team manager and team owner.
Yep.
So he used to race Formula 3 in America and China, and he did S5000s in Australia.
Yep.
So he's been coaching me throughout the year. And the main thing that he told me to do was just to not overthink, because I tend to take advice and then solely focus on that advice. And when I get given more, then I sort of drop the advice that I was just given before and focus on the new advice.
Yeah.
So anything that he's been telling me is just to not overthink it, just to take little pieces at a time, get the pieces of the puzzle and put them all together and just try and be consistent. And it affects real life as well, because I've found even with my studies recently that overthinking tends to lead to more mistakes. If you try and think different ways to approach an equation instead of going the normal way or the way that you think is right, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be wrong. So it's always best to go with your gut.
I know personally myself, I've gone through an exam and I go back at the answers and I'm like, I really shouldn't overthink that. So I think it's really important to do that.
It
Like,
is really important. Yeah.
especially even at school when you're looking at your test and you're like, oh, I had it right the first time.
Yeah, it's like you circled C the first time. I went, hey, no, wait, it's A. And then you rub out C, and then the answer actually was C in the end. Like those sort of things.
And you look at the answer that you crossed out and you're like, oh, that was the right one. It's
That was
always
the right one all along. Yeah.
Alrighty, a bit of fun question. If you could race for any Formula One, Formula Two, Formula Three, Formula Four team, who would it be?
Obviously, I'll just go straight to Formula One.
Yeah, fair.
It's probably a tie in between Ferrari and I'd say probably McLaren. I'd say Ferrari because I like the culture of Ferrari and I like
Yeah,
their history. And then I also like the history of McLaren as well, but McLaren's got the better car at the moment.
yeah.
So that's sort of where I tie the line a little bit.
And you'd
Ferrari because
be,
of the culture and then McLaren because of the car.
I mean, McLaren's had lots of Aussies as well. So,
We've got plenty of Aussies, yes, so might as well just keep it rolling, hey.
yeah, might as well keep the Aussies going. Is that
Yeah.
something you're working towards, making your way to Formula One?
It's a bit unrealistic to be
Yeah,
completely honest. It does require a lot of money, a lot of time, and especially because I did start later as well. It is going to take a lot more than what it would take for someone who started earlier.
yeah,
So it is the dream, but it's not the goal, if that makes
yes.
sense. So
So, what,
the
yeah,
goal is just to get paid, to have it be my job, that I get paid to race, whether that be in Australia or that's overseas. I'd love for it to be overseas and traveling the world. And then the dream is to drive in Formula One. The dream would be to go to the pinnacle of motorsport of F1, but have to still have to like sort of keep myself to the ground and know it's not completely realistic and it's definitely not guaranteed that it's going to happen. So I have to focus all my energy somewhere else instead of focusing on just purely getting to F1.
yeah. I mean, you could be the next Alonso. You never know.
Could be.
So what are you hoping to do at uni? So obviously you want to focus on motorsport. Are you thinking about doing a career path that could get you to work with some teams, or what do
Yeah,
you?
well, I'm going to try and go into mechanical engineering and then go into the branch of automotive.
Yeah,
So when I go into automotive, you can either go into robotics or machinery. So you can look at like cars and stuff. So I'll go down into that car route. And then there's Formula SAE. I'd love to work with Formula SAE. So we're already going to partner up with them for 2025 when it comes to getting people through for work experience.
yep,
So we're going to have people that work in Formula SAE come and work in our race teams.
that's awesome.
So like with that connection already, I would love to go and work on the Formula SAE cars because I feel like building and driving those cars that's
Oh,
exactly what I want to do, like with my life. So
yeah.
I'll be driving them fast. I want to be building them so they can go fast.
Oh, 100%. And just having that feeling that you're the one who made that happen, I mean, would feel amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's an incredible feeling.
Yeah. Is there specific unis you're looking at?
I've got three main unis lined up at the moment. So the main one would be Melbourne. So
Yes.
Melbourne's got the best facilities, but of course they're the hardest to get into. And
Yep.
then Monash is sort of a step down from Melbourne, so still really good facilities, but
Yeah.
not as hard to get into. So it's a little bit probably that would be the most likely one I'd go to would be Monash.
Yeah.
And then RMIT is the third one I'd go to. That one doesn't require as much as the other two as well.
Yeah.
But they've got really good facilities and they've got a good team, so they'd still be really good to be a part of. So
Yeah.
those are the three I'd be looking at.
I'm looking at RMIT myself because I've got a really good media course and obviously have those links to Formula One. So always good.
So that'd be a good course to go through, yeah.
Yeah. Do recommend one also. I know some people who are there. They love it. So yeah. Good one to
Okay.
keep in mind.
I'll apply to all three, whichever one would have me. If it doesn't find me too annoying, I'll probably go to.
I'm sure there's people listening that won't think that. In part of your career so far.
So the most challenging part was definitely hopping in the car for the first time.
Yeah.
So when I was doing that testing at the end of 2023, that was probably the hardest step up, just because of me not having that much experience in go-karting compared to what other people have, and also going into a car that's a lot faster because I wasn't driving shifter karts or anything. I was driving a single speed two stroke. So it wasn't even like I can already handle gears and everything. It was learning how the aerodynamics work, learning how the gearing all works, and learning how to take different corners based on what the car needs. Because it's a very different driving style than what a go-kart needs.
Yeah.
And then jumping into the new car, the purple car behind me, that was another big step up as well. That was because it's a lot different than the car that I was driving. It had a lot more, like it needed a lot more than what the other car did. It had a lot more, how do you say, it has a lot more down.
Yeah.
We don't own the car, no.
No, no, you don't own the car, but when you're at your
But I'm at the workshop.
Yes, there we
Not
go.
really.
That's
No,
the word.
normally it's on stands at the workshop.
Yeah.
So can't really just sit in the car. But on a race weekend, I would normally just go and jump in just for funsies sometimes. Like when
You're
we
like,
had like when we had the kids at Phillip Island, we got them all hopping in one by one, and we tried to see who could hop out of the car the quickest. Because one of the things that you need to do when you go to an international level is to be able to get out of the car within 10 seconds. So that's you have to undo your seatbelt, take off the wheel, hop out of the car, put the wheel back on, and then jump out.
yeah.
And
Is
then
that
if you
so?
need to, you pull the extinguisher.
Is
Pardon,
that
sorry.
so? If there was like a crash or something and you need to grab
Yeah,
it, yeah,
yeah.
get
If the
out very
car was
fast.
on fire, if there was a really major crash, you need to get out as quick as possible. And then yeah,
Yeah.
that's where you need to try and get within that 10 seconds.
Have you been in
So we
any
tried
crashes?
multiple.
You want to
So
describe one of them?
well, I'll describe all three of them if you like.
Yeah, go for it.
So one of them was at the Bend, so in
Yeah.
Adelaide. So it was the first lap, and we're coming into the third last corner. And the guy behind me, I was braking really deep, and the guy behind me didn't brake as hard as I did, and he tried to brake at the same time. So he went straight up into my ass and broke the spoiler. Um,
Yeah.
and that was that. Nothing, no injuries or anything. He
Oh,
broke his front wing. The back corner of my car was stuffed. That was it. We both came out fine though.
that's
And
great. No
then
injuries. We love that. Yep.
I haven't had, well, I've had one injury this year. That was the one that was my fault. But when it came to crashing with other people, yeah,
That's good.
that there no injuries, so that's good. And then the second crash was in India. So I was coming into the third corner just after we had a break, and it was like 50 degrees, so the tires were cooked. So I came
Yeah.
into a corner and I was actually going 15 kilometers less than usual. So I was going 15 kilometers slower.
Yep.
And then I go and steer into the corner and I'm full lock like this, and the car just goes straight. And then as soon as I get onto the grass, I actually have more traction than I did on the road. So then it steers and goes alongside the wall, and I thought I had it, so I straightened the wheel. There's a little part of the wall that comes out because there's a tire wall. So my front right tire clipped it and snapped the entire car. So the steering wheel went full lock, went straight into the edge of my finger and snapped it in half.
Oh,
And then yeah, the front wing and the right corner was stuffed. And then the last race we had of the year was Phillip Island, and we were
yep.
on second or third lap. And it was similar to that first crash we had. I went in really deep. The track is still a little bit wet. So I came out and went and used the wet line. And the guy behind me thought I was like, I made a mistake, and he tried to go in for the inside, and he didn't brake as hard as he was supposed to. And he just went straight into the side of me at probably 180 kilometers, I'd say.
Did you go for a bit of a spin?
Oh, it was a big spin. Yeah. It was like he went straight into the side of me. We both spun together, and then our noses were facing each other. Again, no one was injured, which is really lucky. It was a pretty big crash. It could have ended a lot worse.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty big one.
Yeah.
So did you snap your finger during that? The one where the wheel hit your finger? Did your finger snap? Yeah.
It was just it cracked all the way through. So you can see there's a little dent there now, but it cracked all the way
Yeah.
through. It was still perfectly aligned, luckily. But yeah, it was like a little bit bent upwards. But when it came, sorry, I'm flipping you off now. When it came
Oh
to the
no,
side,
it's fine.
it was all still straight. So it was
Oh,
very lucky how it broke, but it still broke. It wasn't like snapped, but it broke all the way through.
yeah. Oh, you're lucky it didn't go fully. Um,
Yeah,
what is going through your mind when you're having those crashes? Like, what do you think when you all of a sudden you're spinning off the track, pretty much?
I just think what happened now.
Yeah.
It's like it's either like the first one, I wasn't completely sure what happened because we were both going relatively the same speed.
Yeah.
He did ram me. It sort of just felt like the rear just gave out and I spun. And then I saw him sitting in the gravel and I was like, oh no, hang on, I got smacked.
Was it me?
It wasn't my fault for once. And then when it came to India, it was purely explicit. I cannot say a single thing that I was thinking when I
Mm,
crashed here.
I could imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Valid
then
swear words for that.
a lot of swear words, a lot of
Yeah.
swear words. And then yeah, Phillip Island was mainly just saying if I was okay and if Chris was okay, who
Yeah.
crashes. That
Are
was the main
you
thing I was going through.
are you close with the drivers you race with?
Most of them, yeah. In Formula Open, I'd say about 90% of them I'm pretty close with.
Yeah.
But then when we went to India, not really. India and
Yeah.
France, I wasn't really close to any of them.
Yeah.
But that's mainly because I did one race in France and one race in India, whereas I did, I think, yeah, 7 or 8 odd races in Australia last year. So that's why I was closer with the group that I was racing with.
Are you still in contact with most of them? Like, do you still message quite frequently?
Well, with most of them are going to be going into regional with me next year because the ones that I was connected with were all Formula 3 drivers.
Right. Yeah.
So those people that were driving the old Formula 3s are then going to go into the new regionals.
Yep.
So I'm still going to be connected with them. I still message them and everything as well. And most of them are going to be in the same team with me as well. So we'll all be relatively close to each other still.
That's awesome. It's good that you can make friendships still on and off in the track, which is good.
Yeah, it is really good because even if you're not in the same category, you can still tend to make friends. Like I've got a mate in Formula V. He
Yep.
used to do LDA. He did it just after I finished. So I connected with him and we're pretty good friends now. I've seen him a couple of times. I've seen him race. He's seen me race and he's a pretty bloody good driver. He probably shouldn't be in Formula V. He should be in something quicker than me. But yeah, we've got a few connections in and out of the categories that I'm in as well.
That's really good. Like, it's nice to hear that there's friendships not just on the track but off the track as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really
Okay. Let's do some fun questions.
fun questions.
Yeah.
All right,
I can
hang on,
find
let me
them.
get notes for these.
All right. What's your go-to drink order?
Probably an espresso. Like ever since we went to Italy,
Yeah.
I I haven't been able to drop espresso since because that's all we had in the machine was just one espresso shot and then a splash of milk. So as soon as we came back home, that's all I've been having ever since. Sometimes I'll have a latte, but I'll 9 times out of 10 I'll have an espresso shot.
Yeah, fair. That's very fair. Especially like if you're tired and you're just like, I need coffee. Like doing
Yeah,
school
just need
homework and
something.
stuff, you're like, oh.
It just needs something to just boost me up. Yeah.
Yeah. If you could go have a coffee with someone, anyone, who would it be?
Probably Lewis Hamilton. Because I'd
Valid.
say he's probably had the most struggle out of all the F1 drivers actually getting up into F1.
Yeah.
So it'd be really good to see how he was mentally and physically going through all the ranks. And obviously, it is a little bit different to how he got into F1 back then, but it'd be sort of similar to how I would try and get up if I were to. But yeah, he had a lot of struggle, which I would be also having a lot of struggle if I did pursue it.
Yeah.
So good to get a lot of advice from him as well.
And I mean, he's pretty similar with you. He does lots of stuff with mental health as well. So you're pretty similar. So it'll be
Pretty
a good
pretty
little
similar,
combo.
just the last name.
Yeah, just got very similar stuff. You sure he's not your brother? Joking.
Probably like a fourth or fifth cousin or something.
Oh, of course. Who's your favorite song artist?
Probably Tame Impala. He's a local Aussie artist. He grew up
Love
in
that.
Melbourne.
Yeah.
I really like his music. It's like sort of groovy and electronic.
Yep.
I just like it mainly for studying, and since I spend like 50% of my time studying and the other 50% driving, it is like it's mainly the thing that's always in my head is his music.
Don't we all? We all have our study music, let's be honest. Is there any tracks you listen to before you go out for a race? Like anything to try and get yourself out of the environment that you're in?
So like a specific song, like an
Yeah,
album.
or like a playlist or
Well, I've got a playlist, but the main song that I listen to is "Let It Happen" by Tame Impala. It's
yep,
just because like yeah, and the it's mainly the bass solo part where like because I normally meditate before I race, so having
yep.
the song play while I'm meditating helps me sort of clear out my mind and get it straight. So I do that every single time before I drive, and it tends to work 9 times out of 10. Besides when I get crashed into.
Valid. I mean, then you have to go let it happen. I mean,
Have to let it happen.
what's the most embarrassing? Have you had an embarrassing moment on the track?
Not on the track,
or
but
off the track?
when we were, I think it was Phillip Island, when we were about to go out for qualifying,
Yep.
I had to readjust my seatbelt 4 times. So, do you know Liam Lawson's famous story of
Yes.
him going up with the seatbelts, having to readjust them? I had the exact same thing 4 times.
Oh,
That's probably the most embarrassing thing I've had because I had to go and tell my mechanic, can you please readjust it? He will readjust it 5 seconds later. Hey, can you please readjust it again? Undo it, wiggle, readjust it. Yeah, that was probably the most embarrassing I've had.
your your mechanic must have been like, oh,
No, he's all right. He's used to it by now.
is he to
I give him proper workout every single time because I like to have my seatbelts really tight.
it?
If you have it really tight, when you press the brake pedal, you don't go up.
Yeah.
Really tight, you can press more on the brake pedal and you can get more pressure. So if it is really tight down, it is hard to actually like fasten me in the seat properly. So he finds it a bit funny every single time. And then in
Oh,
France, they also found it really funny because I was like, nope, tighter, tighter, tighter.
just suffocate me.
Essentially. And the Frenchies found it hilarious.
Oh,
Like,
they would have, let's be honest.
yeah, it's like as soon as I got in the car, he's like, more? They're like, yep. And he's like, more? Yep.
Yep.
He already knew it.
Just go all the way.
Just go all the way, as much as it'll go.
Yeah. Do you have your L's?
Yes, I've had my L's for 2 years now, and I'm gonna be on my P's in June this year. Well, hopefully. That's if I get enough hours.
Yeah. I was gonna say that's a lot of hours.
I haven't been able to drive because of my finger.
Oh
So
yeah.
like I wasn't legally allowed to drive for a few months. So I've these school holidays, I've done I think well over 30 hours. 30, or probably up to 40 now in just driving. So yeah, I need to get to 120 and currently I'm on like 75 or something. No, I'll check afterwards.
Well,
About
you're
75 hours.
doing better than me because I'm on 1 hour. So
1 hour.
I
How long have
was
you had your L
studying and
for?
I worked Christmas retail. I didn't have time.
No, no, that's fair.
Um, any funny learner stories? Like what'd you do?
Any funny
Anything
stories?
like when you were driving on your learners? Anything funny happened?
I mean, like the second time I was driving, we came out of a McDonald's car park
Classic. Yep.
and we went down a really tight side street. So there were cars parked on either side. So I was like, since it was only my second or third time driving, and I'm driving my dad's like big ass ute.
Oh,
I'm I'm trying to like line it up to go through the set of cars.
yeah.
And I look to the left, and then all of a sudden I hear a thud and feel the car shake. And I'm like, oh crap, don't tell me I've hit something. And then dad tells me to chuck the car into park. And there's a guy on my right. He's straight up reversed into the tire. So since I was full lock, the tire was out by probably that much. And he's just reversed straight into the tire. Like he didn't see me there. He went straight into the tire and broke the back of his car. Like, I was scared. Like I was scared so bad because I thought I hit something. Because
Hit a person, hit a car, hit a rabbit, hit something.
instead someone hit me. So like our car was fine because he hit the tire, but his car was yeah, it wasn't too
His
good.
car was not good.
His car was not good.
So were you driving a ute?
Yeah, I was driving
Yeah.
a yeah.
Yeah. I've been driving a Land Rover, so I get it. Big car.
Yeah, big car. Yeah, big car problems. Yeah, and that's why
Yeah.
I like driving my Toyota 86 a bit more. It's a bit smaller. I like driving manual more than automatic. So
Yeah,
yeah, very
that's
fun to
fair.
drive. Yeah, a bit better than the Ute.
Do you have a favorite movie or TV series?
I'm always like split on favorite movies. I always change like every other week.
That's so
But
fair.
favorite series is Brooklyn Nine-Nine, probably. Really like Brooklyn
Classic.
Nine-Nine. I've watched it a few times, maybe like 4 or 5 times. And then favorite movie at the moment, I'd say it's probably Interstellar.
Yeah.
Interstellar is probably my favorite movie. I watched it recently and thought it was like it was perfect. Like probably one of the best movies I've watched. Probably tied with Pulp Fiction.
Yeah. Fair. Um, oh, I got one. Okay. If you could race anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Anywhere in the world.
Any track, anywhere in the world.
Probably want to try Spa in Belgium. Like
Really?
I feel like Spa would be really good. Like I always forget what's the hill's name. Like I
I'm
always forget what it's called.
about to Google it.
Like the yeah, I feel like the hill would be really cool to drive on. Like
Yeah.
if it was if I somehow was able to drive a Formula One car on Spa and go up the hill, because I'm pretty sure they're flat out up the hill as
Yeah,
well. I
they
feel
are.
like it'll be a really cool experience to do.
Yeah.
Like just being able to just have my foot to the floor and just have the car go would be
Yeah.
really cool.
What's the fastest? Sorry. What's the fastest you have gone?
So we had tailwind at Phillip Island
Yeah.
for qualifying, and we normally reach speeds of about probably 235 to 238, give or take. Whereas at Phillip Island with the tailwind, we got up to about 245 around about. So normally the car stops at about 240 to 242, but we
Yeah.
went up to the red line with the tailwind and had, yeah, that 245.
What's
That's
the fastest lap time?
the
Would it be
fastest.
that race?
Yeah, probably as in like across all the tracks, the fastest lap
Yeah.
time. Good question. Hmm. I mean, Sandown, you do minute 20s. Winton, you do minute 20s as well. They're all around about the same because most tracks are in between 3 to 4 kilometers.
Yep.
But no, Sydney's 1 minute 30. Probably Winton, probably Phil Palm. Yeah, but what's the time? Was that no, those were 13s, weren't they? Were those 13s?
Challenging question.
I think it was Phillip Island minute 13.
Yep.
I think I'll have to double check that. I'm pretty sure it's a minute
Ooh,
13.
that's pretty fast, to be honest.
Yeah, it is a minute 13 because you can do a minute 20 something in Toyota 86. Oh, hang on, Dad's looking through the emails. Hang on.
See, this is why it's good to have an assistant.
Yeah, so Phillip Island's probably when it comes to speed, probably the quickest track.
Yep.
So speed wise, you're pretty much flat out through everywhere besides Lukey Heights and Honda. So Lukey Heights being the massive hill, and then
Yeah.
Honda being the hairpin after turn three. Yeah, turn three.
Trying to
Turn
retrack it
four.
in your brain. There
Turn
we go.
four. Yeah, being the hairpin after turn four. Those are the only times you're not flat out, essentially, in a Formula Four. But then time wise, like actual lap time wise, is probably Winton.
Yeah. What time was that? Do you remember?
Winton is low 20s. I think
Yeah.
I got 21. And then the other F4, which is a newer generation and a different brand, was a minute 19. So I think my current F4, because that was a lap time in the old F4 that I was driving. So in the new one, I think the theoretical is a minute 18.
Yeah. That's
Because
pretty.
it's got a lot more downforce. It's got a bit more, well, not more power, but it's got like less turbo delay. So it's got less
Yeah.
turbo. So it's more straight to power.
Yeah.
The other car is.
Pretty fast. Do you have any unusual skill or talent?
Not really. No, I don't. I really think I have any unusual skills. I mean, I like I like mixing music, but that's pretty much
Yeah.
it. Like I like taking multiple different types of tracks and like changing the pitch, bass, slowing them down, and then splicing them together with other music with similar tempo.
So a bit of a
But
DJ.
just a little bit. Full-time DJ, part-time race car driver. Oh,
And then like casual student, is that
sorry,
right?
you lost sound for the
Oh,
first half of that.
and then a casual student.
Casual student, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, casual student, part-time race car driver, full-time DJ.
Yeah. I have another question. Go to snack.
Go to snack. I don't really snack too much.
Really?
I mean, I can't really have snacks too much
Yeah,
because I have to be careful of my weight. But if I do, probably yogurt and granola.
there.
Just something light, something
Something
healthy.
light, something
Yeah,
healthy. Yeah. What are your meals on race day? Like, what do you eat?
probably just that really. It's like normally I have granola and yogurt for breakfast, or I have toast,
Yeah.
and then for lunch we normally make like either chicken burgers or just normal beef burgers.
Yeah.
Just like try and keep the protein count up, just because of how much I am like actually using in a day.
Yeah.
I keep things relatively light, relatively high protein, and trying like rid of fatty foods.
Yeah.
It's
That's fair.
pretty much every race weekend.
No Bunnings sausage sizzle then.
No Bunnings sausage sizzle, no, sadly. I don't think we've had a Bunnings anywhere near we've been driving though, so it's a bit of a shame.
Oh, such a shame. Aussie icon. Favorite food from another country.
Probably it'd be something French. Actually no, probably Mexican. I
Yeah.
like probably the entire Mexican cuisine, I'd say. I don't think there's anything Mexican that I don't like.
No, I don't think me either. Like, I feel like Mexican's just such an easy go-to. Like, you can be like, I'll have this enchilada. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. It's like the only thing that I can't do is that I just can't have mushrooms. That's it. I just despise
Oh,
mushrooms.
I hate mushrooms too. I hate the texture and the
It's
taste.
just the texture of them. They're so bad.
Like,
Like it's got no taste.
I eat everything except mushrooms. It's just,
Yeah,
oh,
that's the only picky thing. It's just mushrooms.
oh yeah, literally. I can't. Like, everyone loves mushrooms in our house, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
How do you like that?
No,
Yeah.
it's just like the texture, the taste. This
Mm.
podcast is about to turn into a I hate mushroom podcast.
Had it turned into a foodie podcast.
What's one inspiring message that you want to share with everyone?
Um, well, hang on. I've stuffed this up. I wrote it down before and I can't find it. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So it's something that my dad told me when we first started driving.
Yep.
So he said, mate, as soon as you're starting to get into race cars, you're starting to be above what these go-karters are doing. You're going to start copying a lot of hate. And the main thing you have to do is just don't listen to them. Like, if they're not doing what you want to be doing, then don't listen to them.
Yeah.
Not where you want to be, don't listen to them. They're just going to hate on you. They're not giving you any advice. Then you don't have to listen to them. Just
I
ignore
think
them.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Like people can use that everywhere, at a workplace, at a school environment, at a sports event, anywhere
Exactly.
really.
Like if you're in AFL and you've got, I don't know, like you're in AFL and you're doing states or something, and you've got one of those club players saying, "Oh, you suck at AFL, or you can't kick a footy straight or something or whatever." And they're at a club level, you're at a national level. There's no reason to listen to them. It's the same thing in race cars. You shouldn't listen to a rental car to telling you to give up if you're in a race car going like 5 times as fast as they do.
Yeah, exactly. Like I feel like yeah, that can be applied everywhere. So
Be
pretty
applied
much
everywhere. Pretty
yeah,
versatile message.
yeah. I think that's really important. Alrighty, well, thank you everyone for tuning in today. It's been great to have Jayden on with us. And yes, stay tuned for more updates with Sports with M. We'll be out with more episodes soon. Yeah, stay updated with all our social media, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn if you're on LinkedIn. Thanks so much. Thank you, Jayden.
Thank you for having me. It was really fun. It was a good talk.
No worries at all.